Hello there, Salim Omar here from the e-commerce Money Map podcast, welcoming you and bringing you another guest. An amazing episode is ahead of us, and our guest his name is Parag Mamnani. Parag, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Salim. Excited to be talking to you about e-commerce today.
Awesome. Parag is not new to e-commerce. I'm going to quickly share his background and then ask him some questions that I've formulated. Parag has dedicated the last 2 decades to building software that boosts success for small businesses in the retail and e-commerce industry. Webgility is a founder of Webgility. It currently serves over 5,000 omni-channel small business retailers by automating accounting and operations for e-commerce. And by integrating all the channels and systems in the e-commerce business and keeping them in sync, Webgility helps his clients' businesses to sell more, spend less, and grow faster. The Webgility platform is designed to integrate seamlessly with QuickBooks, Xero, and NetSuite, eliminating manual data entry, inventory issues, and accounting errors. Awesome. This is Parag. So good to have you. You've got so much wealth of knowledge and experience in the e-commerce space. I'm curious, like, how did you get into e-commerce?
Yeah, I often get asked the founding story. I graduated at the height of the dot-com bust, and so entrepreneurship was kind of forced upon me as there was not a lot of jobs to be had.
Hmm.
E-commerce was certainly getting kickstarted as Amazon had launched its bookstore online. And we started to see the rise of eBay and several different marketplaces at the time. And yeah, I got my early kind of learnings designing e-commerce websites. There are a lot of open source e-commerce platforms at the time. And yeah, haven't looked back since. Just loved working with small businesses, building e-commerce stores. I created an agency helping launch, thousands of e-commerce brands online. I also got a chance to work on the rocket ship of Amazon for a few years on their web store product. And yeah, all of those experiences really got me excited about e-commerce and haven't looked back since.
Hmm. What led you to Webgility? What did you see missing? What inspired you to create Webgility?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I was building e-commerce sites at at my agency, typically, businesses would start off with, well, how do I start selling online? How do I set up my store? What are all the basics? How do I do it with fulfillment, etc. But most often than not, that I would find them getting stuck after they started to get orders. They didn't quite know how to do the order flow, how to keep their inventory levels in sync. They didn't know how to close their books or manage all the data that's coming from all these different channels. E-commerce bookkeeping and e-commerce accounting has become sort of the real big field today. But
Mm,
20 years ago, there were very few accountants that knew how to do e-commerce accounting. And so working with small businesses firsthand, I saw that there was a need for kind of bridging all the data and kind of bringing it all together. And the same thing I saw at Amazon. One of the top things that merchants would ask is, hey, I've got my orders now. How do I do my bookkeeping for them? What about sales tax? Is my inventory going to be updated? I'm also selling on this other channel. How do I make sure that product levels or inventory levels are accurate? So, both in the agency side and at Amazon, it was just so clear that there was a need in the market for an automation solution. And that's really what, led me to start Webgility. And our mantra from day one has been, how do we really help small to medium-sized businesses get all of their data flow right? How do we integrate all the channels they're going to sell on? And I could also see, 15 plus years ago, we were not about to become a single channel world. Everybody was going to sell on more and more channels. And it's more so true now where we're not just seeing multiple online channels, but an omni-channel experience and also expansion internationally. So the more channels you sell on, the more complexity, and you need to have a system to keep it all together. And that's the answer that Webgility provides for most merchants.
yeah. One of the things that I see working with e-commerce businesses is they're looking to scale their business. What are what are a few things that get in their way, and what are ways to kind of accelerate or help them get over this hurdle of of being in one place and they want to get to that next level, but they just can't seem to get there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We see merchants struggling with this all the time, and there's a few things to kind of really keep in mind. First and foremost, if you haven't mastered kind of one channel, don't try to do a second,
Mm,
right? So it's most important to kind of um, get your tech stack right, get your workflows right, figure out how you can be successful on a single channel because there's going to be a number of aspects, when it comes to how do you organize your inventory? What does your catalog look like? Something as simple as what kind of SKU naming convention you have is so important, but often
mm.
overlooked. The channel that you're selling on, how are you going to handle the fulfillment? How are you going to handle customer service? How are you going to handle returns? How are you going to do the sales taxes? Just thinking about all of the different pieces of the tech stack and getting it right for a single channel is the most critical. I think that's the place that I feel sometimes, or most often, I see merchants kind of want to launch multiple channels at the same time, thinking they're going to be about the same, but they're usually not. So master your first channel, figure out your tech stack, and then start to think about
So
what
before,
a second
can I
channel
just
looks
ask you
like. Yeah,
a clarifying question on
of
on the
course.
great advice you just gave? Is there a revenue size for the first channel before they go on to the second channel?
Well, it really depends on the target market for your product, right? So if you think about getting started, typically brands will get started launching their own store because they want to build their own audience and have their own place where they can really showcase their product and through their design. Or many will start with a marketplace like Amazon as an initial experiment, try to test different products, test different pricing strategies. And you can also dabble in these channels with a lot less capital because you can use, say, Amazon fulfillment or a 3PL, and really kind of leverage even, manufacturing offshore and a lot of different ways to kind of really cut your costs and do experiments early on as you're getting started. So it to me it boils down to what's going to give you that feedback loop that you've found your market, right? That you found your fit. That's when you should really start to scale a single channel. And what I've typically find it's around the three to 500,000 of annual revenue. It's, when you hit that 300 to 500,000 threshold is when you kind of have a proven business. And oftentimes entrepreneurs are born out of, a side hustle, a side gig in e-commerce. And so, you get that three to 500,000 of annual revenue. That gives you the validation that you've got something there and that you can really a, kind of work on it full time, but then B, really start to look at other channels where it might be more interesting or you can build new audiences. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. Kind of start with a channel, think about how you're going to get some validation on it and build that revenue before you start to dabble into more. And then, of course, as you even expand to more channels, you need to be also thoughtful about which channel has what go-to-market motion, what type of audience you're going to get, how you're going to do the fulfillment, how you're going to manage inventory across multiple channels so that you don't run out of stock or oversell. So lots of factors to consider, but it's really starts with the foundation of getting one channel right.
That makes that's great advice. How important, and really the entrepreneur, the mindset of the entrepreneur is try to do more and try to do quickly. And I think we get into the mistake of trying multi-channel without really getting one down and getting the feedback loop, as you're saying, and really get that proof of concept, right? Before
That's
then
right.
going on to that second one, because getting the second one without doing the first one, it's a distraction. It can be an energy. Then you're not as focusing on the second one, and then you're losing focus on that first one. So it's the worst of both.
Yeah. In fact, one of the other things to point out here is that there can also be like a little bit of over engineering, right? Like when you're getting started, you want to not make things way too complex. So even if you're considering doing your own fulfillment, maybe you eventually will get your own 3PL warehouse. Initially, it makes sense to use off-the-shelf tools, off-the-shelf kind of solutions, more plug-and-play types offerings to really test your products. Because ultimately, I think especially when you're getting started in e-commerce, the first thing you're really testing is the channel and your product. Like what is the audience in that channel, and are they going to be, buying your product? And do you have the right price points? What sort of volume and velocity you can expect? And those are a lot of things that you need to kind of really fine tune before you invest very heavily in all the infrastructure and trying to make scaling decisions. But, it's, I guess a simple heuristic is kind of you want to plan differently for the 0 to 1 stage and plan very differently for the 1 to 10 and the differently for the 10 and beyond.
Yeah. Talk to us about automation. How important is that? How quickly should a e-commerce business owner kind of start thinking about it and getting that into play?
Yeah, I mean, I think the sooner you start, the better, right? Because ultimately, there are some basics in terms of your ordering flow, your inventory flows that are pretty standard. And as you start to get more order volume, you don't want any of those things to really slow you down, right? Especially when you're getting started. You want to have that nailed. So understand, what does your catalog look like? What's your SKU naming convention? Where are you going to get your, where are you stocking your products from? Or if you're manufacturing them, obviously you need to have your supply chains right. And then as you think about the channel you're selling on, also think about the fulfillment, think about customer management. And as you start to look at all of these things, you soon realize you have a lot of systems to keep track of. You
Mm,
realize your data is going to be scattered in a lot of different places. And therefore, you got to think about automation early. um, Ours kind of sweet spot, I'd say, in terms of Webgility and where we see the most struggle is typically businesses that have crossed that $500,000 to $1 million threshold. They're now generating, 1,000+ orders a month, and they're expanding from one to maybe 3 to 5 different channels and multiple marketplaces. That's when automation is almost like a necessity. Like your business will come to a screeching halt if your data is not flowing, right? If you don't know where your inventory levels are near real time, if your order management, order takers don't know what orders are, where to find the items, how to fulfill them, like those are the places where everything just breaks. And so the earlier you start, the better.
mm, yeah, makes sense. AI, artificial intelligence, is there a place for like small e-commerce business owners, medium size? How does AI fit into all this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. We are actually I'm doing a podcast on this topic with on Webgility here just in the next couple of weeks. So for your audience, whenever this one's published, they should go check out Webgility. They'll be able to learn more. It's a whole segment around AI for small businesses. And what we're going to be spending some time talking about is just sort of debunking this myth that AI is really only for consumers or it's AI for large enterprises, right? There's kind of a lot of unknowns right now around how do I actually leverage AI as a small business, right? There's these interesting kind of tools for, say content generation, image generation. Maybe it can help me write my product descriptions better. There's definitely a lot of tools already in the marketplace that can kind of help you get started. But the reality is those tools are going to be kind of readily available on these platforms for everyone, right? So those are kind of table stakes now. So now it's for small business to really think, how do I bring AI into my business? And, Webgility, I consider a small business, and we think about AI the same way that I expect our clients to,
Mm,
is it's really two parts. I think of AI from a perspective of internal operations, like how can I put AI tooling and capabilities to really empower my employees to be more productive
mm,
and more informed? And number two is how do I put AI to work for my customers, right? What more capabilities can I drive for my customers to be able to really take advantage of AI technology? And so Webgility, we've done both. We've got some tools internally that we use that now are ubiquitous in our company. Simple things such as notes taking for conversations and meetings, right? Like we've instrumented that. Our sales team, our customer success team is using AI tools internally to get insights from our support ticket volume, to be able to analyze, where the challenges are in the product, what can we do to better inform our roadmap. So there's a lot of internal tooling that I think is very beneficial. But then also externally, we've in fact just recently launched our Webgility AI assistant for our customers, and it's free. It's included in all of our packages. We just launched it in beta, in fact, just about a week ago. And we're really excited about it. And it's an AI assistant where small businesses can use it to get simple answers about their e-commerce business. Hey, how much money am I making? Which channels are selling? What products are most profitable? Lots of great insights that they can get just by pulling up a prompt and asking the AI assistant. But more importantly, where I see AI moving for small businesses is as more and more users start to adopt AI as just a new way of interacting with software. So going from, lots of searches and clicks to simple commands and instructions to the AI assistant. And so today, customers can now log into our app and simply tell it, post all my orders to QuickBooks. And
Mm,
so it's being able to take those simple actions that previously would require a search and a click and multiple screens and views and filters to let's just go figure out what I need to do, to just now telling your AI assistant to go take care of them for you. That's where I see kind of AI evolving, and we're excited to really kind of bring that firsthand to our customers already with our assistant launch.
yeah, that's awesome. I want to ask you your your point of view, your belief, your experience with just several different areas. And I'll start with hiring uh, or building a team. What are your beliefs? What have you seen work for you when it comes to hiring and building a team?
Yeah, boy, what was true 20 years ago is certainly not true now. So lots of things have changed with regards to hiring. I would say um at a very high level, I would say with regards to hiring is to focus on the core strengths that you need full time in your team, and then leverage talent elsewhere for all of the added skills that you want to enhance. So kind of keep your core in-house and
Mm,
outsource the rest. Number two, I would say with regards to hiring is kind of it's 2024. We're past the pandemic, thank God. But we are living in a hybrid world, so embrace hybrid work.
mm,
You're not gonna get away. Especially as an employer today, it's very challenging to only have in-house kind of full-time staff, and also just the sheer costs of the infrastructure needed to put everybody into a building. So embrace hybrid, embrace remote team members. I think those are two good places that most kind of startups can think about. And I would say as you're scaling your business, and you think about expanding channels, you think about recruiting team members. Yeah, I mean, you just have to be able to embrace kind of that remote work, and what that means as a both a recruiter and a manager is you have to have kind of the talent and the tools in place to really be able to communicate well with your team, continue to build that culture and foster growth, even when team members might not even met them ever in person and they're your employees. So it's a very different environment today than it was quite a few years ago.
yeah. Systems and processes. What's your belief about relating to that in small business?
Well, as an entrepreneur myself, you start early on with lots of ideas, and we often just want to roll up our sleeves and do. We don't necessarily want to be bogged down in the early days by putting systems down and putting, an accounting system in place and thinking about my inventory and,
Mm,
communications and processes. Um, I guess it's easier now to kind of get started and maybe hack your way through and just kind of get some early traction. But I'm a believer you just cannot scale without systems and processes. So, you might be able to get to zero to one, but you're certainly not going to get from one to 10 without really putting systems and processes in place. And no matter what, and of course, I'm a big fan and I love kind of the accounting space and all of the things that happen with e-commerce with just the sheer volume of data and systems you have to manage. So it's important to kind of have a good system of record and have an automation solution like Webgility to kind of keep everything flowing. It's the only way to scale your business.
Yeah, yeah. Sales and marketing.
Ooh, boy, it's not an easy time. Customer acquisition costs are incredibly high as channels are getting saturated, competition's very high, and we're now competing with even large corporations internationally who have found creative ways to sell directly to US consumers. So, not an easy time to be a e-commerce startup. Certainly not an easy time to scale either, as cost of acquisition is high. But there's still a lot of room for creativity. I mean, you're showing it yourself. There's a great, as you said early on. Your focus on education and building community, and that's a real leverage for your CPA practice and business as well. And I think that's the kind of creative element that businesses need as they think about sales and marketing for themselves is kind of really think about their brand, think about community. What are the different ways in which they can differentiate and really market themselves? And then, of course, again, use as many automation solutions as you can, even in the sales process, right? There's so many great e-commerce platforms that make selling kind of really easy for you. But yeah, put the right customer support staff so they're providing great service. And yeah, I think there's still tons of opportunity out there.
All right, last one. Lifestyle, work-life balance, keeping your sanity.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a recurring theme for me almost in every podcast I go on. I talk about meditation.
Mm,
I talk about the importance of slowing down. I talk about um really making sure that you have a work-life balance. Perhaps it's also indicative of my age. I'm not in my 20s anymore, and so I'm not
you're
in
only in your
the
30s now.
well, we won't go there, but yeah, not in my 20s or 30s anymore. And so, I've definitely come to embrace kind of finding ways to balance your life. And frankly, as a founder CEO now going on 2 decades, I think it's really important that you find that time during the day, during the week, you find that hobby, you find that passion that grounds you, that slows you down. Meditation's
Mm,
a great option. Working out's great. Listening to music's great. Like whatever you think can really kind of help you find that center and balance. Because I feel better decisions are made that way. It's not just a way of
yeah,
physical well-being, but to be a smart and successful entrepreneur, it's not just all hustle. It's about being able to really, I guess, smell the roses as well and really find that balance so you can make better decisions for yourself and for your team.
yeah, yeah. Wow, that's great advice. And I mean, I was just kind of nodding my head all along because I've been in business for 27 years and a lot of what you said, I mean, I totally kind of, resonate with it, relate to what you just shared, like all the different areas. So
Great. Yeah. Well, you're very experienced and you've had a lot of success with your practices as well. So hopefully it's been, hopefully it's useful for your audience as well.
yeah, one thing from my side that I would just kind of emphasize for the audience is the importance of having the right people, surrounding yourself with the right people. I mean, I truly believe that can make or break a business. It's having the right team members, whether they're with us as team members or they're outsourced or leveraging. You just gotta find the right team to bounce off. And if you have the right team, it can make a huge difference. If you don't, it can be quite stressful, and you may feel like you're on your own. You're alone.
I could not agree with you more. I say this to my team all the time. It's all about the people. It's all
Yeah.
about the people. You surround yourself, and I think it's true both professionally and personally. Your professional circle and your team. The people you work with are the motivation. They're the ones that inspire you. They're the ones
Mm,
that support you. They're along for the journey, especially as entrepreneurs. And in your personal life, the people you spend your days with, the families that you are spending time with, along with your kids, they create a culture, they create an environment, they have a mindset, a lifestyle that you start to embrace. And so, yeah, I truly believe it's all about the people, and it's really important to, yeah, surround yourself by those that are supportive of you, and you know, sort of repel the ones that aren't.
yeah, yeah. Wow, this was so good, Parag. Before we finish off, tell us a little bit about Webgility. If somebody wants to learn more about it, where do they go? And then I'll
Sure.
ask you for some final words of wisdom before we kind of wrap this up.
Well, see if I have more wisdom for you. But yeah, Webgility, it's pretty simple. Webgility.com. Webgility.com is where you'd go to find out more about the company. We have a free trial. We have e-commerce advisors available on chat and on phone. You can schedule a demo and chat with them about how you can automate all of your accounting and integrate your e-commerce channels with QuickBooks. Also, definitely ask them about the AI assistant, or go ahead and try it firsthand yourself. Connect it to your store and you can get going. You can also reach me on LinkedIn. I do post there frequently. So Parag Mamnani, and just look me up on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to connect with you there. And I do dispel some words. I don't know if they're wisdom, but whatever my thoughts are, I tend to publish every now and then.
Cool, awesome, great. And some final words of wisdom for our team, for our audience.
Well, listen, since your audience is definitely going to be leaning and interested in the world of accounting and in finance, I think it's really important to realize that e-commerce is no longer a mystery. It's not hard. It can all be simplified. It doesn't have to be too complicated. You don't have to get too worried about how crazy your settlement reports look at Amazon, or just the sheer stream of order volume and the sales tax complexities. I know, Salim, your team helps a lot of businesses manage their e-commerce accounting and their e-commerce financials and their tax strategies, but certainly think about how you can use automation to really put a lot of the mystery aside and just streamline your back office. Your month-end closing should happen in minutes, not in weeks. You should know what your cash flow and your financials are at the tip of your fingers. You should know kind of your profitability at a item level, at a channel level. You should know where you're making money. Don't just think about your top line, really think about your bottom line. And I know lots of businesses think about selling, 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 and growing sales, but it's 2024. It's the year of efficiency. Profitability is most important. So you really want to take a really close look at where you're spending your money, and make sure you're streamlining your operations with software automation tools, and not just trying to do everything by hand and fumbling through errors and mistakes. But yeah, those are some of my tips, I would say, for especially businesses that are looking to scale and thinking about their growth in 2025.
Awesome, that was great, Parag. Folks, visit Parag, webgility.com. Parag, really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. I feel like I got a lot from this interview myself, just listening to you, reinforcement and reminders. So thank you.
Thank you. I
Appreciate
appreciate it.
everything you gave us.
Well, great. No, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. Hopefully, it was beneficial for your users.
Awesome. You take care.
Thanks so much, Salim.